Samsy. Story time with Dora. What are we doing, Samsy? Around the world in 80 days. Part 20. What are we doing? Oh, we're gonna cruise on past the Vermilion Cliffs and the cliff dwellers, and we're gonna end up just past the Marble Canyon. Real nice little drive on the tail gunner view again, and we get to bounce around a whole bunch because that's what that thing does back there. Okay, now this story around the world. Now when we left this thing off, I think the boys had he found himself first at Passepartout. Oh, right, I remember now. Passepartout woke up and he was on the boat. So now he's trying to figure out what in the world is going on. He ain't got no money. So he's just trying to figure out what in the heck happened. So they landed in Yokohama, and he found himself, he's walking around and he's looking at stuff. So we'll kind of pick it up there. This quarter occupied with its streets, squares, docks, and warehouses, all the space between the promontory of the treaty and the river. Here, as at Hong Kong and Calcutta, were mixed crowds of all races, Americans and English, Chinamen and Dutchmen, mostly merchants ready to buy or sell anything. The Frenchman felt himself as much alone among them as if he had dropped down in the midst of Hottentots. Oh, well, it's got a little thing there, so let's just check it out and see what a Hottentot is. Hottentot was the name given by European settlers to tribespeople living in South Africa. Well, we should just wrap it up right there. That's enough. Man, we got a year's worth of information right there. Hottentots. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Can that be right? Surely that's what it looks like. Okay. Hottentots it is. He had at least one resource to call on the French and English consul at Yokohama for assistance. But he shrank from telling them the story of his adventures, intimately connected as it was with that of his master, and before doing so, he determined to exhaust all other means of aid, as chance did not favor him in the European quarter. He penetrated that inhabited by the native Japanese, determined, if necessary, to push on to Yedo. The Japanese quarter of Yokohama is called Benten, after the goddess of the sea, who is worshipped on the islands round about, where Passepartout beheld beautiful fir and cedar groves, sacred gates of a singular architecture, bridges half hid in the midst of bamboos and reeds, temples shaded by immense cedar trees, holy retreats where were sheltered Buddhist priests and sectaries of Confucius, and interminable streets were a perfect harvest of rose-tinted and red-cheeked children who looked as if they had been cut out of Japanese screens, and who were playing in the midst of short-legged poodles and yellowish cats might have been gathered. Okay, no, wait a second. Now let's just go back and see if we can put that together into something that makes sense. We looked as if they had been cut out of Japanese screens, and who were playing in the midst of short-legged poodles and yellowish cats might have been gathered. Yeah, okay, let's just let it go. The streets were crowded with people. Priests were passing in processions, beating their dreary tambourines, police and custom house officers with pointed hats encrusted with lac. Oh, here we got another thing we need to... A lac is a resinous substance used to stiffen felt hats. Was that the stuff that had mercury in it? That, you know, the Mad Hatter kind of thing? I don't know. We'll find out what some lac is, maybe. I guess that's what it is. It's a resinous substance used to stiffen felt hats. Specifically that. Okay. All right, now I got to find my spot again. Okay. Carrying 2 sabers hung to their waists. Oh. So we got police and custom house officers with pointed hats encrusted with lac and carrying 2 sabers hung to their waists. Soldiers clad in blue cotton with white stripes and bearing guns. The Mikado's guards enveloped in silken doubles. Hauberks. All right, we got another one. This little page here is full of all kinds of information. Hauberks are tunics of chainmail worn as defensive armor. I'm telling you, today is the day. We got so much information. I'm considering just wrapping it up right now because I don't know that we can top that. Let's move on. Coats of mail and numbers of military folk of all ranks for the military profession is as much respected in Japan as it is despised in China. Went hither and thither in groups and pairs. Passepartout saw 2 begging friars, long-robed pilgrims, and simple civilians with their warped jet black hair, big heads, long busts, slender legs, short stature, and complexions varying from copper color to dead white, but never yellow, like the Chinese, from whom the Japanese widely differ. He did not fail to observe the curious equipages, carriages, and palanquins, barrows supplied with sails, and litters made of bamboo, nor the women, who he thought not especially handsome, who took little steps with their little feet, whereon they wore canvas shoes, straw sandals, and clogs of worked wood, and who displayed tight-looking, flat chests, teeth fashionably blackened, and gowns crossed with silken scarves, tied in an enormous knot behind an ornament which the modern Parisian ladies seem to have borrowed from the dams of Japan. Passepartout wandered for several hours in the midst of this motley crowd, looking in at the windows of the rich and curious shops, the jewelry establishments glittering with quaint Japanese ornaments, the restaurants decked with streamers and banners, the tea houses where the odorous beverage was being drunk with sake, a liquor concocted from the fermentation of rice, and the comfortable smoking houses where they were puffing, not opium, which is almost unknown in Japan, but a very fine, stringy tobacco. He went on till he found himself in the fields, in the midst of vast rice plantations. There he saw dazzling camellias expanding themselves with flowers which were giving forth their last colors and perfumes, not on bushes, but on trees, and within bamboo enclosures, cherry, plum, and apple trees, which the Japanese cultivate rather for their blossoms than their fruit, in which queerly fashioned, grinning scarecrows protected from the sparrows, pigeons, ravens, and other voracious birds. On the branches of the cedars were perched large eagles. Amid the foliage of the weeping willows were herons, solemnly standing on one leg. And on the other hand were crows, ducks, hawks, wild birds, and multitude of cranes, which the Japanese consider sacred, and which to their minds symbolize long life and prosperity. As he was strolling along, Passepartout espied some violets among the shrubs. "Good," said he, "I'll have some supper." But on smelling them, he found they were odorless. No chance there, he thought. The worthy fellow had certainly taken good care to eat as heartily a breakfast as possible before leaving the Carnatic. But as he had been walking about all day, the demands of hunger were becoming importunate. He observed that the butcher stalls contained neither mutton, goat, nor pork. And knowing also that it is a sacrilege to kill cattle, which are preserved solely for farming, he made up his mind that meat was far from plentiful in Yokohama, nor was he mistaken. And in default of butcher's meat, he could have wished for a quarter of wild boar or deer, a partridge, or some quails, some game or fish, which, with rice, the Japanese ate almost exclusively. But he found it necessary to keep a stout heart, and to postpone the meal he craved till the following morning. Night came, and Passepartout re-entered the native quarter, where he wandered through the streets, lit by multicolored lanterns, looking on at the dancers, who were executing skillful steps and boundings, and the astrologers who stood in the open air with their telescopes. Then he came to the harbor, which was lit up by the resin torches of the fishermen, who were fishing from their boats. The streets at last became quiet, and the patrol, the officers of which, in their splendid costumes, and surrounded by their suits, Passepartout thought seemed like ambassadors, succeeded the bustling crowd. Each time a company passed, Passepartout chuckled and said to himself, "Good, another Japanese embassy departing for Europe." Oh, that's the end of the chapter, guys. That's the end of the chapter. Okay, let's move on. Chapter 23. In which Passepartout's nose becomes outrageously long. All right, let's just take a little peek at this road. Boy, that sure is pretty, isn't it? Yeah. Well, there's a whole lot of it up there. Okay. The next morning, poor, jaded, famished Passepartout said to himself that he must get something to eat at all hazards, and the sooner he did so, the better. He might indeed sell his watch, but he would have starved first. Now or never, he must use the strong, if not melodious voice which nature had bestowed upon him. He knew several French and English songs, and resolved to try them upon the Japanese, who must be lovers of music, since they were forever pounding on their cymbals, tam-tams, and tambourines, and could not but appreciate European talent. Oh, here we go. I think that's, that's the, I'm pretty sure that's the Cliff Dwellers area. But, like I say, I often am not correct. It was perhaps rather early in the morning to get up a concert, and the audience, prematurely aroused from their slumbers, might not possibly pay their entertainer with coin bearing the Mikado's features. Passepartout therefore decided to wait several hours, and as he was sauntering along, it occurred to him that he would seem rather too well dressed for a wandering artist. The idea struck him to change his garments for clothes more in harmony with his project, by which he might also get a little money to satisfy the immediate cravings of hunger. Oh, there's the old bridge. This is Marble Canyon right here. And on the right-hand side there's the old Navajo bridge over there. And yeah, a lot of people come and walk across it, you know, get their selfie on. Immediate cravings of hunger. The resolution taken, it remained to carry it out. It was only after a long search that Passepartout discovered a native dealer in old clothes, to whom he applied for an exchange. The man liked the European costume, and ere long Passepartout issued from his shop, accoutred in an old Japanese coat and a sort of one-sided turban, faded with long use. A few small pieces of silver, moreover, jingled in his pocket. Good, he thought. I will imagine I am at the carnival. With his first care, after being thus Japanized, was to enter a tea-house of modest appearance, and, upon half a bird and a little rice, to breakfast like a man for whom dinner was as yet a problem to be solved. Now, thought he, when he had eaten heartily, I mustn't lose my head. I can't sell this costume again for one still more Japanese. I must consider how to leave this country of the sun, of which I shall not retain the most delightful memories, as quick as possible. It occurred to him to visit the steamers, which were about to leave for America. He would offer himself as a cook or servant in payment of his passage and meals. Once at San Francisco, he would find some means of going on. The difficulty was how to traverse the 4,700 miles in the Pacific which lay between Japan and the New World. Passepartout was not the man to let an idea go begging, and directed his steps toward the docks. But as he approached them, his project, which at first had seemed so simple, began to grow more and more formidable to his mind. What need would they have of a cook or servant on an American steamer? And what confidence would they put in him, dressed as he was? What references could he give? As he was reflecting on this wise, his eyes fell upon an immense placard which a sort of clown was carrying through the streets. This placard, which was in English, read as follows: Acrobatic Japanese Troupe, Honorable William Batulkar, Proprietor. Last representations prior to the departure to the United States of the Long Noses, under the direct patronage of the god Tengu. Great attraction. So that's what the sign said. The United States, said Passepartout. That's just what I want. Okay, here we go. He followed the clown and soon found himself, the clown, like the copper clown in Hong Kong. Oh, what do you mean, copper clown? What the heck are you talking about, MC? The copper clown. He followed the clown and soon found himself once more in the Japanese quarter. A quarter of an hour later, he stopped before a large cabin, adorned with several clusters of steamers, the exterior walls of which were designed to represent, in violent colors and without perspective, a company of jugglers. This was the Honorable William Betulkar's establishment. The gentleman was a sort of Barnum, the director of a troupe of mountebanks, jugglers, clowns, acrobats, equilibrists, so we'll just go with that, and gymnasts, who, according to the placard, was giving his last performances before leaving the Empire of the Sun for the States of the Union. You know what? Seeing how this is getting awfully difficult and I'm kind of chewing it up, let's just call it right there. And we'll try to pick it up later and do a little bit better. So, all right, let's take one last little peek here. Oh, that sure is pretty, isn't it? All right. Thank you so much for coming along. And we'll get a little further down the road next time. So let's just do this here thing. Some see. And let's give you just a moment or two of the biggest Rosie. And that way we know everybody's going to have a good day. Ha ha. You go, big girl. Oh, boy. You go, big girl. Do your thing.